We're in the process of sanding this one down. Haven't got the top on it yet. The bottom I've put in already because I have to put it through the top here in order to get it to fit. And it's all fastened on there. 600 grit, 400 grit, and then 600 grit. And I use the Abernet. It's a product by Merca, and as you can see here, it's a mesh type material, and it doesn't heat up. I use a sponge pad underneath it, which has got holes in it, and it doesn't heat check any of the wood. Pressing this lightly, I'm sanding from there to there, whereas if I took this off and had a hard surface, I would just be sanding to there. And the object is, if you sand it this way, it'll get little facets in it. And when you put the little sponge in there and press it just lightly, then it feathers it out and makes it real true form. So sanding is a big part of bowl trimming, as all you trim bowls know. Okay, the question is asked, why don't we sand this on the lathe? Number one, when it's on the lathe, it's wet. I only turn these when they're wet. I don't turn them when they're dry. There's a lot of reasons for that. When it's wet, it's flexible enough that you don't get cracks in it. And number two, if it's sanded too wet, you will get your paper plugged up. So I put 2 coats of cedar treat on this when it's wet, and that keeps it from cracking. There's not a cracked one in this whole bowl here. And it's been drying for 3 weeks. The best way to find out about the product is to go on the net and get cedar treat, cedarside.com, CIDE.com. Okay, this is the top that goes on here. It's already sanded here. I use a flexible shaft sander and start out generally with about 120 grit and sand in here like so, in here, and in here. That's about, it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to sand that. Tried a number of different glues, and all the carpenter glues have a tendency, when the top is attached to this, have a tendency sometimes to warp a little bit and pull loose. This stuff will not. It's designed for wood and stone, and it's there forever. It takes about an hour and a half to set up.
Oh my goodness.
This has been soaking for about 12 hours in the solution composed of 4 parts Deft Danish oil and 1 part of Deft Thane. This was real anemic, like the last photos of the sanding, and you can see what happens when you dip it in oil. It's really quite fantastic.
Holy crap, that baby's beautiful.
Bottom here's got the serial number and my initial and so forth, out of the same kind of wood. And this is the first of about 5 to 6 coats that this vessel will get to be finished. And we'll go down in another room, my finishing room, and I'll show you where we take it from here. So as you can see, it's all the coloration here. This was a special piece of wood, had a very dark center in it, and as I turned it over the surface here, it started revealing this change here in the dark center. This is something that's typical of the Cook pine, the Norfolk pine that we have over here. Most of the liquid will drain off in here, and I'll come back in about 30 minutes and wipe this down. Then it'll set for a day before I start putting the other coats on.
So the piece is basically oil logged at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's soaked all the way through. In fact, if you put a light inside here, you can see glow through the knots and things here. They're about 5/16 inch thick. Try to maintain that thickness. Heavy enough to be solid, but not heavy enough to be a chunk of wood. We want it to be an art piece, so 5/16 is a good balance. We'll put a coat on this little one here. Just kind of set this one here out of the way. We won't put it on the inside there, because the inside's got too cold. Okay, what we're doing here now, these have gone through the process we just looked at, and this has been buffed with a buffing wheel like so. I buff between every coat. This is the third coat to go on this one. This is the same material that we dipped it out there, the Deft Oil and Deft Thing mix. You don't want a lot of breeze on this because it'll set up and skin over, and it won't make a nice smooth finish. But so if I have a fan on, I shut that off, and this process is repeated until I have the sheen that I want on it, generally in the 4 to 6 coats range. Leave a paper towel because it's a very soft, almost like a cotton, and just swab that on there. Come here and just start wiping up and down with the grain. It's literally a hand applied. I don't use any spray equipment. In the process of rubbing it like this, I'm feeling the tiny little grains, and they get smaller as the finish builds up on it. Not high tech at all, but very effective, and the results I think are outstanding. As you can see, the gloss is really starting to come up there on that. Working just about completely around it. Now it's setting up a little bit. It's a little bit tougher to rub it. You want to get a little opening so you work pretty fast. And then to stay with the grain pattern, I'll come back over here like so to blend that grain pattern going that direction. Okay, we have one other step here that I want to mention. We've used the Tripoli Jeweler's Rouge compound on this wheel to dress this down, take little imperfections and little pieces of dust that have accumulated there. And when you get to the last coat, probably another 2 coats on this, and this would be the last coat. Then I buff it with the Tripoli the final time, but before I put the wax on it, I buff it with white diamond. This comes in the Beal kit. It's much finer than the Tripoli, and it literally just brings the gloss out to the maximum, just like it was waxed. And my theory is that with any kind of a finish, you want to have it looking as good as you can possibly make it before you put the wax on. The idea is that the wax will wear away in time. The Renaissance wax is my favorite, and it lasts in the gallery. It's been my experience 8 to 9 months. And a Carnauba wax, which is a vegetable wax, will last about 3 or 4 months, but it'll start turning right away, deteriorating somewhat. If you finished it with this, when the wax is gone, you still have a beautiful sheen on the wood. So that's the reason why I use this as the last one before I wax it. Here. Okay, this is the piece we just put finish on. As you can see, it's relatively dry. It isn't really dry, but it doesn't hurt to stroke it because it's drying pretty fast. It's fast drying finish. And this is 21 inches tall. We're in my display gallery. I built this because I do a lot of work for collectors, and I like to have quite a bit of inventory on hand if they're interested in purchasing. But this is the taller bowls that I make. This is 41 inches, that's 21 inches, and just gives you an idea of the size that I'm dealing with. And if you're ever in Hilo Town, I invite you to come and visit me. I enjoy that, and we'll show you around. Thank you.